Hi YouTube, welcome to Pagan Perspective. This is Thursday and I'm your host Megan, aka Spirit Story. So today we are talking all about New Age / paganism and differences thereof and things like that. So, and where they overlap. So this is interesting. Honestly, it's not something I ever really gave a ton of thought to before this question. So I had to really kind of sit with myself for a second and wonder. I haven't had a chance to watch any of the other hosts, so I'm not quite sure what they said. So hopefully I'm not really weird in this, or I'm not repeating just something that they said. Or if I did, then maybe we have the same perspective. So basically for me, when I think of New Age, and this is just my personal take on it without any research really, but it's my experience, right? So this is what I have experienced being a long time member of public practice as well as a hereditary pagan. So for me, what I've always noticed is that New Age tends to be more about kind of a zeitgeist, right? It's the culture, and you have people who are in a New Age lifestyle, so to speak. Whereas paganism is more about it being religion, right? So it's a practice. We practice paganism. Now, some people might not use the word religion. I did a whole video on why I prefer the term religion over necessarily some of the other words. But for me, that's what paganism is. It's more about a practice. It's more about religion. And New Age, to me, while it certainly could be a religion for some people, when I think of it used, or when I hear it used, it's usually talking about a zeitgeist, a movement, a lifestyle, a cultural kind of phrase, right? And so initially New Age came about with the astrological age, right? So when we moved into the age of Aquarius, you know, the idea is the new age, right? I love that song. If you've never heard that song, if you're a youngin' or just never really were into like oldies music, Age of Aquarius is an amazing song. It's one of my favorites growing up. I loved 60s music, but I was a little, rebellious protester type. So I really loved that song. And that's sort of what it was all coming about, was this talking about this new age and coming out of this very oppressive time. And so we were coming out of, basically you had the 50s going on there, but really the 50s were just a modernized version of the Victorian era, right? So you have the Edwardian era and the Victorian era, kind of Downton Abbey-esque, right? And so it's very patriarchal, very stiff, very prudish, very closed in. Even, when you look at their clothing, it was lots and lots of layers and very bound up, right? So you have all those corsets, and they were very tight about that. And they were also tight about, kind of what you were allowed to do. I mean, women in particular really weren't allowed a lot of freedoms. And so you get this freedom with the new age that comes about that basically opens everything up. They talk about, you've heard, I'm sure, about bra burnings, right? And so this idea of truly being free, you just take it off, you're ripping off, that corset comes off, it's loose now, you don't have that kind of weight coming down on you. And so this new age, right, it prompted a lot of people to seek out something new. And it's not necessarily religious. So there's lots of people who live New Age or live the lifestyle of New Age, or would call themselves sort of New Age, would be people in different religions. You could have somebody who is New Agey and a Christian, a Catholic, someone who's Jewish. Like you could have any number of religions all saying, with that person saying that they were New Age or New Agey. I hear that a lot too. Oftentimes, stereotypically, New Age stuff will get lumped in with a lot of crystal stuff. Oftentimes a lot of divination. I think that divination tends to run a lot in some of the New Age circles, especially when you're talking about festivals. So anytime that you're going to see, and this is where I have a lot of expertise, is in a lot of festivals. So you have a lot of psychic fairs, metaphysical fairs, new age fairs, and they're going to have a lot of mediums, psychics, readers, energy workers, crystal workers, angel readers, those sort of things. You're going to have a lot of that, and that has kind of grown. It wasn't initially really part of the new age. It was really more about being free and kind of breaking those shackles of what had come before. And now it's sort of moved into this, idea that we are connected to energy. And oftentimes you'll hear people at these fairs talk about spirit. So it's sort of this universal way of talking about the divine in whatever way that you think about the divine, or think about energy, or think about anything outside of yourself, is the idea of spirit. And so spirit is something that lots of different religions can kind of get behind, or at least use that same terminology. So it is something that can kind of join a lot of different religions together around this idea of spirituality and feeling connected, right? And especially connected to something other than ourselves, right? In particular, each other. So that's sort of new age, whereas paganism, I think we talk about that a lot on this channel, is more of a religion. And now obviously there are so many different types of paganism. I couldn't even possibly go into all the different types. However, in general though, paganism tends to follow more of a practice, more of a religious aspect, where the people who would call themselves a pagan tend to be able to talk about deities that they might work with, or particular rituals that they might do, things like that. And that's not to say that someone who is new agey or who is new age can't do that. It's just, it seems to run, it kind of, those are its own little niches, and they blend and they move together sometimes, and they overlap and then they come apart. So yeah, so I think that's just about it. I hope that helps. It certainly wasn't scholarly or anything like that, but it is what I have gleaned from my years of experience. And yeah, so hopefully you all are having a wonderful week, and I hope that you have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you next week. All right. Bye. Blessed be, and aloha.